Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're honored to have with us the legendary Italian progressive death metal band Sadist.
Всем привет!
We will dive deep into their creative process, inspirations, and the journey behind the latest album. Let's welcome Sadist. So, your new album was recorded at Nadir Music Studios, which you own. As Italians, you know the value of craftsmanship, and a studio is truly a craftsman's workshop. How did working in your own studio shape the sound and atmosphere of the album? And could you share one moment that in the studio that felt like a breakthrough?
Well, of course, for a band, it's always better to work in its own studio because you have time to take care of everything. You don't have the pressure because of the studio budget. It's your own studio. You can spend even more time, and at least you have full control on everything. Otherwise, you don't have a third opinion. So if you make mistakes, it's your fault. So you have some good and some bad.
So it sounds like having full control allowed you to experiment more.
Yeah,
right?
of course. But if you make mistakes, you are a dumb. So it's your fault, actually. It's quite a challenge. I mean, it's riskful, but it's also much more easy in a way to work, to track, and compare it to the previous album. This time we all worked together in the studio, tracking drums and bass and guitars and stuff. That's much better because when you work with different musicians from different countries, you don't have full control. Everybody works in his own studio. That's cool, okay, but it's not good for the producer.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. The next question is, in the early 70s, Italy gave the world a unique wave of progressive rock with bands like Banco del Mutuo Soccorso, Museo Rosenbach, Le Orme, New Trolls, Chi la Vecchia Lacanda, and PFM. However, this phenomena remained largely local and wasn't widely exported. Do you feel a musical connection to this legacy of Italian prog? Who, if anyone from that scene, has influenced you, and why do you think such brilliant Italian rock music often remains confined within the country's borders?
I think the biggest influence for Sadist, talking about 70s progressive rock music, is the band called Goblin, which was responsible for most of the soundtrack from the horror movies from the 70s from Dario Argento. You must probably you know some of them, and that was the biggest influence for me and Trevor because we grew up watching horror movies, and that kind of movies from the 70s and from the 80s. There was a big suggestion for Sadist about topics and music as well, and the soundtrack for most of the time it was from Goblin or even from other progressive musicians like Kate Emerson from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And since we grew up in 70s and late 70s and 80s, we grew up listening to those kind of progressive music. That's why we love so much it, and that's what the reason why we put keyboards in Sadist and all those progressive influence mixed with death metal.
Right. And one of the most exciting things about Sadist is how each album feels like a new chapter. From the cinematic spellbound to the instinctive something to pierce, it's clear you don't repeat yourself. As you finish touring and reflecting on your latest work, do you already have seeds of ideas for the next record? Can you give us a glimpse of what musical or conceptual territory you might explore next?
We got worried very easily about making new albums, so every time we try to find new solution to make something different, slightly different from the previous album. But of course, we have a trademark, so we have a set sound, and we keep on playing this kind of progressive death metal style. But what's interesting for us is trying to put something fresh every time in each new album. I don't know about the future. We are discussing, me and the guys, about the next album, but we are still focusing on touring. And as soon as we go back to Italy, we start we will start thinking about the next album. Anyway, in 2006, there will be an important anniversary for us. It's the 30th anniversary from the second Sadist album, Tribe, which is very popular in some countries in Europe. So we're going to make a reissue from that album, and we will spend most of the 26 playing songs from that album. Then we will think about the future. We don't know about it yet.
Okay, but how do you think, will the next album continue to push the boundaries of progressive death metal, or might it take listeners in a completely unexpected direction?
We would like to shock the audience. Problem is, when you try to shock, you can shock in a positive way or in a negative way. So let's see.
Thank you. You mentioned before Alfred Hitchcock as an inspiration for Spellbound. Italian cinema is also rich with dark and evocative imagery, from Argento's horror to Fellini's surrealism. Are there any other directors or authors whose work resonates with your musical vision?
We love John Carpenter, for instance, and I don't know about the guys if they have not their names, but Dario Argento, of course, and Lucio Fulci. Now he's getting popular. George Romero.
Deodato.
Deodato. There are so many from the 80s.
A lot of them, right?
Yeah.
If you could make a soundtrack, what kind of movie would it be? How do you think?
I don't know.
Horror one?
Horror for sure.
Horror for sure.
Horror for sure.
Only horror.
Only.
No romantic movie.
No romantic.
No.
That's that's sad, actually. Shifting from inspiration to the current scene, are there any musical discoveries from the last, let's say, 5 years that have genuinely impressed you? Or do you think that, in a way, the best music was released decades ago?
I think that there's always going to be new, interesting music. You just have to look for it. I don't like when people say, that the old music was the best and the 80s was the best. I don't believe it. You can't keep on comparing with the past. I mean, the world change, we evolve, and music evolve. Music is a language,
right,
and it changed throughout ages. So lately, in the last 5 years, I discovered some very cool technical metal band. I really like Arcspire, for instance, and I know Trevor is more old school oriented. So maybe he prefer the old school death metal from the 80s, but I guess Davide also loves the new upcoming bands.
I also love the modern technical death metal. It's really getting on a higher level.
Maybe one or two examples.
I like Aspire 2, First Fragment. I love that band. Not that recent, but also Spoon of Possession was a great band.
Right, I'll check them out. Never.
Or Fractal Universe. Fractal Universe.
Fractal Universe is very good.
Beyond Creation. Beyond Creation.
Obscure.
Yeah.
Gold from France.
Thank you. And your music blends technicality with melody in a way that feels almost jazz-like. It's complex, but still enjoyable to listen to, of course. And how do you balance this? Are there any jazz or progressive metal bands that inspire you in that way?
Well, actually, we are not that much inspired by the other progressive death metal band. We were heavily inspired in the 90s by bands like Cynic or Pestilence, talking about albums like Focus or Spheres. But lately, we try to reach for a very personal and unique sound. This way, we started mixing a lot of world music and ethnical influences, using unusual instruments within the death metal we were playing. So we can say that we are mostly influenced by the classical thrash death metal, like Slayer, for instance, or 90s death metal bands, and we just put some non-metal influences like prog or world music. That's what we try to do. Yeah, bouzouki, sitar, and a lot of percussions. But of course, then if you always keep on doing the same formula, start to be annoying people. So we started to experiment with vocals within the latest 2 albums. Since Firescorch, we started working more on vocals. So we added some female vocals, something we never did so much in the past.
Combining like low vocals and high vocals.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Maestro
experiment.
kind of.
Also trying different languages. We started using non-English languages within the songs, and that's something that we'd like to improve in the next future.
Thank you. And your music is often explores dark and philosophical themes. From your perspective, is humanity on a fast track to self-destruction, heading for the abyss, or is just another spiral in our evolution and things eventually will be all right?
Well, it's very easy. When you are happy, you don't write music. You don't make art. You go outside in the park at the sun. When you write music, when you make a painting, when you make art, it's because there's something not really good going on in your head or wherever. So the most important artist in the history had something wrong in mind, like I don't know, some very famous painters or even musicians. That means that to make art, you don't have to be happy. So why talking about happy stuff? It's useless. It's better to talk
boring.
about the dark side of life because
Sure.
it's more interesting than the happy side.
I agree, 100%. And the next one is more philosophical and fun one. Do you think it's possible to play metal music after 70 or even 80 years of age? Or does it start to look a bit ridiculous at some point?
We will see, because it seems like the age from average death metal musician is starting to be like 60 actually, and I'm 52. David is very young, so it's like a child for me and Trevor. And David and Giorgio, they both new breath within the band. That's very cool. So I think that's a good solution for a band like Sadist with a long history, 30 years. If you have new musicians within the bands with energy and a new perspective with the music, they can bring new air, fresh air within the band. This is a kind of solution, because actually you get old. Maybe in the spirit you feel you are young, but you are not. So be ridiculous is a matter of attitude. I mean, when you see Angus Young on stage, I don't see he is ridiculous. He's Angus Young. I mean, he's one of the greatest guitar player in history. So I got to see a 7-year-old little man playing guitar and making history. I don't care if he's 70 years old. So about that metal, it's gonna be something like that in the next future.
For sure. And regarding your label, Live Tribe Music, you haven't released any albums since by other bands since 2022. Have you simply lost interest in finding and signing new artists, or is the focus just entirely on Sadist for now?
Live Tribe actually is a copyright for our company that's called Nadir Music, the studio. So Live Tribe is mostly involved in copyright from those bands working within the Nadir Music studio. Actually, we are signing with a Polish label called Agonia, and the latest 2 albums, Firescorch and Something to Pierce, were released under Agonia Records. But we license the music through Live Tribe, so we have the control on the copyright of the songs. So the songs is completely in our own possession. Mm-hmm. So we can, when we finish the contract, the deal with the label, we can do whatever we want with our music. That's something that we learned from bad experience in the past. It's better to have full control on your music and on everything, as long as you can manage to do it.
Thank you. And as I know, each one of you has a day job outside the band, and it's a reality many musicians face. Could you tell us, how do you carve out time for creativity, and does your day job ever influence your approach to music?
Well, me and Trevor, we are lucky enough because we work in music. I mean, Trevor is responsible for press office and promotion for bands. Most of the bands that works in Nadir Music. I am the sound engineer in Nadir
right.
Music, so I work in music all day. The only problem is that after 9-10 hours mixing metal bands, I don't feel like taking the guitar and playing metal. I just want to quit with music for the rest of the day. On the other side, it's
What about young blood? Yeah.
Davide.
I'm working in Italian television, so I have I can spare time for music as much as I need because I can work on shifts.
Right.
And Giorgio is the lucky guy because he runs rehearsal rooms in his hometown, and it barely works. So he's the lucky one.
And do you have a ritual to switch from day job mode to sadist mode?
I don't. I don't switch. I mean, sometimes.
Always sadist.
Yes, because Sadist is a big part of my life, and I can talk at the same about Trevor. So even if I'm working in studio, sometimes it happens that I'm doing some mix or whatever, or I'm playing guitar from some other artist, and if I have a guitar and I'm recording guitar, maybe a new riff that could be interesting for Sadist, I start tracking and I record and then I put it away just to take it. You never quit from music, actually. Even if you try to quit, you always think about your job. That's the problem when you make a job that you love. It's nice, it's cool, but at the same time, you never quit. When you make a job that you don't like, you go home and you stop thinking about it because you don't like that job. But if it's your own company, a band is like a company, actually, and you are responsible for that job, for that company, you really never stop thinking about it.
Right, and I was always curious, do you ever improvise in the studio, or do you like plan everything carefully?
In Italy, you cannot plan everything, actually. Italy is a chaotic country.
All right.
And you just... I think Russia is more or less the same. So that's why I personally I like Russia, because sometimes I feel like it's pretty much like Italian
You mean
attitude.
it's like chaotic?
Yeah, it's a little chaotic, but in a nice way. I mean, that helps to be creative. You have new problems and you have to find solution. That's what I like in real life, and I don't believe that life you can plan everything. You have to find solution to new problems and then help your creativity.
That's amazing thought, actually.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned before today a band like Cynic who prioritized art over commercial success. Yeah. And I think it's more a rhetorical one. Is it more important to make music you love or to be popular? And how do you see this balance?
It depends what's your priority in life. I mean, for some people, priority is to make a lot of money. There's a quick way to make a lot of money. Go in a bank and grab the money. That's very easy. And you get very popular as well. So it's a nice solution. But for some people, money is not a priority. That means that you try to find a work-life balance. The best is to have a job that you love, and you don't the pressure to go to job. You go to your job with a smile. So money is not the most important thing. And when you make music, it should be the same, actually. Yeah. The problem with young people, I mean, I'm talking about mostly rap, trap musicians, because in the studio nowadays, it often happens to work with young rappers, young trappers. And they come to the studio, they don't have the idea to make music. I mean, I don't like rap that much, but I respect the music. And if I don't like it, doesn't mean that it's not interesting, it's not good. It's just because it's not my favorite kind of music. But what I don't like is the attitude. If your priority is to make money, it's not going to work, actually. I mean, you can make money in some other ways. If the priority is to be fair, to make good music, and you really have something to say, sooner or later, you are going to be noticed. That's something I really believe. You just have to be strong and patient and to believe in what you do. If you really think that you have something interesting to say, sooner or later you will find an audience. But if you want to have it very fast, because you want to be popular and rich, enter a bank, grab the money, you get popularity and you get a lot of money.
Right, and have you ever did rappers visit your studio?
Yeah.
You have the experience with sound engineering.
Yeah, now I have some experience. Lately, I have some experience. I'm currently making one of the latest job. I'm still working on it. As soon as I return to the studio, I have to finish some backing track for reggaeton.
All right.
Yeah, I wrote the music because they wanted me to write some music. I am a musician. It's my job. So.
Right, so it's about staying true to your vision.
Yeah.
And another one, rhetorical one, if you had to choose between chart top hits that didn't reflect your style or a complex album loved by die-hard fans, what would you pick?
Well, you do it mostly for the fans, because the best part of this job is to be on stage and play for people. We make albums because we have to do it. We like to make music, to write new songs, but the purpose is to go on stage and play live those songs and have people that really want to listen to your song. That's the best. So if you make music you don't feel from within inside of your soul and people feel like it's not...
They'll feel false.
Yes, feel false. That what's the matter?
Yeah, for sure. The next question is, progressive death metal is constantly evolving, and as veterans of the scene, in which direction do you think heavy music will develop over the next, let's say, 10, 15 years?
I cannot figure it out. Maybe David is younger, he can do it. What do you see in the future?
Use your imagination.
I think it's going more in an extreme direction, in terms both of playing, maybe of technique, and both in terms of production and sound. It's always more polished, it's always more compressed, always seeking for the heaviest sound possible. Maybe even in deathcore genre, which is a genre I don't personally like, but always seeking the heaviest breakdown, the strangest vocals. It's going in that direction to be, in my opinion.
Well, personally, I hope that we will go in future in a complex way, not.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. And after a long break, you're back in Moscow for a show. Mm-hmm. And what are your expectations? Are there songs you're especially excited to perform live here?
We really love to play the new stuff because it's already some years we are not here. So we want to see the reaction with the new songs from the latest albums and see if people likes it. Yesterday we were in Peter. It seems like people liked the new stuff. So let's see today in Moscow.
Yeah, we can't also wait to see how the crowd reacts here. Any plans to record a live album during this tour?
Not really. Not really. Nowadays it makes no sense to make a live album because anyway it's an effort of energy and money, but people go on YouTube and check for live videos, so there's no market for a live album, at least if you're not Metallica or that level of popularity. To me it makes no sense. Okay, we make art, we make it for the art, but we still make it has to make sense money-wise. If it doesn't make sense money-wise, it's better not do it.
Okay. And a simple but curious one. Do you guys still go to concerts as fans?
Yes.
Do you have time to watch and support other bands?
We try. Latest concert.
Latest one.
Latest.
Which one?
I often go to underground shows. Sometimes I go to see bands that recorded in our studio, and maybe they play in the neighborhood, and I go there. I work as a live engineer sometimes, so I go for work. And I see the show, but I'm still working. And I don't know. I don't like to go to very big concerts. I mean, we went to see AC/DC last time they went to Italy because we all love AC/DC. So we had to go there, but I prefer small shows, small concerts. When I can, when it's interesting, I go there.
Like 100 people in a...
It's not a matter of how many people. It's a matter if it's an interesting band. I try to go.
Okay.
It's important to support the scene, I guess, and it's interesting to see something different from the usual. I don't feel like going to see Iron Maiden for the 10th time, or some people like it. For me, it's not interesting.
Thank you, Sadist, for
Thank you.
such rich and
Thank
thoughtful
you, guys.
conversation. Your music continues to challenge and inspire. For everyone watching, catch Sadist on tour and dive deep into their new album, Something to Pierce. It's a journey worth taking. Until next time.